Are you finding that you lose your breath quickly? You're doing some activity and you get winded really quickly. Maybe you're doing a hike, trying to run a 5K without stopping, or maybe you're just trying to keep up with your kids, but it's a challenge. What if I told you you could improve that without doing endless hours of cardio? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Dubar Training Channel, where we help those of you who are starting off taking your health seriously to reach your fitness goals without losing your sanity in the process or consuming your whole life. My name is Mitch. Thanks for stopping by. So today we're going to be talking about how to not get winded no matter what activity you're doing. You're hiking, you're running, keeping up with the kids, whatever. How do you not get winded? So this is going to be great for you if you're tired of not being in shape or not being healthy, but you're kind of on the fence about if you want to start to do anything about it. You know you don't like where you're at, but you're kind of like, I don't know. This will be good because usually it feels so daunting and we want to make it feel a little bit more reasonable. This will be good if you have made the decision, you decided to start, but you don't know where to invest your time and what is the most reasonable thing to do. And you're like, I don't want to waste my energy doing stuff that doesn't work. So this will give you some clarity, maybe a little more confidence to step forward. Or maybe you have been working out for a while. Maybe you've been doing some workouts, but it's not working the way you thought it would. You seem to run into some barrier and you don't know why that is the case. So this could be helpful for those of you who find yourself in that situation. We could figure out what some of those barriers are. So I'm going to give you 3 actionable points to take away from this and build up yourself so that you don't get winded, okay, no matter where you find yourself. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Just want to give a shout out before we get started. If you're looking for a way to sustainably tackle your fitness goals and finally feel confident, then I suggest you check out the link below. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for those of you who are starting off and you want a reasonable pattern, a sustainable pattern to finally feel confident about your body and your fitness level. Then check out the link below. I think you'd find it helpful because I think that's at the end of the day what we all want. We just want to be healthy and feel confident about where we're at. Okay, so check out that. But today, however, we're going to talk specifically about getting winded. So let's talk about that some more. So generally, you get winded easily. That's a problem. Maybe you're concerned that you can't keep up. You're going somewhere. You're uneasy about. Okay, can I do this? Maybe you're even avoiding some activities because you're concerned that you won't be able to do it. Maybe you want to go on a hike with your friends, but you can't. You're saying no because you're concerned you're going to hold them back or something like that. And you just want to feel confident that no matter what life throws at you, you're going to be able to handle it with a reasonable amount of competency. You're going to be able to go into that situation. You may not be the best or whatever, but you just want to be able to go in there and not slow people down, stuff like that. So that's typically what people are thinking of when they want to get into this type of thing. And what can sometimes happen is you can go some wrong ways, some things that aren't as effective. And one of those things that people typically do is they just do more work. I'm gonna spend hours of time at the gym. I'm just gonna do endless cardio. I'm just gonna buckle down and get this done. The other thing that can happen that's sort of coupled with this one is you do the same activities or movements over and over. So a really common one is I'm gonna run an hour every day of the week forever to build up my lung capacity to make sure I don't get winded. Now that that sort of makes sense. You want to build up your capacity, so I'm just going to do more stuff. The problem with those things, it's twofold. One, when you work out for a long amount of time, or you just add more work, it's daunting. You either feel scared, like, oh, that's such an aggressive plan. I don't know if I want to even take the first step. Or you take it and it's just exhausting. you're always working out, you have no time, it just sucks. That's no fun. The other thing that can happen if you take that approach is, especially if you're doing the same activity over and over again, you can develop some injuries. If you're running all the time, that's hard on your joints, your knees, your ankles, etc. So I understand why some people go there, but I don't think that's the best approach. And I want you to avoid some of those problems that are associated with that. I don't want you to get burned out. I don't want you to get injured. There are better ways to do that. So I want to tell you my story with this type of stuff. So I remember, this is a while back when I was in high school, I remember doing the Terry Fox run. The Terry Fox run, we did 10K, and it was awful. I remember it being so bad. Oh my goodness. I was getting cramps. My gut, I could just feel it. I was completely exhausted. I really was wanting to stop several times. I was just hurting badly. Now, fortunately for me, I had a classmate, one of my buddies, and he was an athletic guy, so he's just like, whatever you do, don't stop, just keep moving type of thing. And I think I walked a little bit, but it was only for a little bit because he kept pushing me and goading me on to keep going. But it was an awful experience. It was so bad. At the end of the 10K, I was just done. I grabbed one of those peanut butter bars and ate it, and I felt like I was in heaven because it was finally over. But it was a bad experience, I'm telling you. And it was kind of surprising because I've been active my whole life. I've been playing hockey since I was 5 years old. Played other sports. I think at that time I was doing a little bit of weights as well. I was not a couch potato. I was doing stuff. So why was I so winded? It was really interesting to me. So where do we go from there? Fast forward a couple of years, I started to change how I approach fitness and my exercise routine because I was doing a lot of sports. Like I was mentioning, I was doing hockey. I was also doing boxing. I just got sick of the sports, and I wanted to just work out for the sake of working out. And in the process of doing that and from learning from other people, I found a bunch of things that really helped. My lungs, my ability to keep going, my endurance, not getting winded. And after changing my approach, I could run any distance pretty much without stopping. It was crazy. I was a lot faster, and I felt like I was still putting in work. I'm not going to say I didn't put in any work, but it was way more efficient. I'd say the amount of total time I put into my workouts was slightly less. So I was like, this is great. I'm working out less, and I'm getting more out of it. What's not to like, right? So let's go over what the big things were that changed it for me. I got 3 big ideas that we'll kind of chop up a little bit and go through that you can take away from this and really apply into whatever you're doing right now. So the first thing that changed for me was I shifted from training from long durations of time into prioritizing the intensity of whatever I was doing, whether it was short or long. So I was biasing intensity over the duration. Let's talk about why that is a good thing. So let's talk about the problem of just going really long on your workouts. The first thing is, if you're working out and your actual workout, I'm not talking about your warm up or your cool down, just the workout itself. If it's really long, if it's 30 to 60 minutes, it's boring. Can we be honest? It sucks. You're on a treadmill for 45 minutes. It's boring. You're running. Now, some of you love running. You can run for an hour and you love it. Hats off to you. That's not me. And I'd say for most of us, 80% of us, it's not fun. So by and large, broad strokes, there are some exceptions. It's boring. You're just doing something for a really long amount of time, then what's that about? You know, it's not gonna be quality anyway, so you're gonna get distracted, you're gonna start doing other things. So it's boring. That's the first thing. The second problem with going really long on your workouts is that just practically it's hard to fit into your schedule. I used to do 2-hour stints at the gym when I was boxing. 2 hours. That's a long time. It doesn't have to be that long. That's hard to fit into your schedule. How often are you going to be able to do 2 hours of work in a day? Like, that's a lot. What if you could get similar better results in 10 minutes? That's really quick. How about 20 minutes? That's a fair amount of time. It can happen. And it's a lot easier to fit into your day, and you could spread that out. So it's just hard to fit your schedule when it's longer. I like to keep it condensed. And then the third problem, I think, with duration or going with a really long workout is you're training yourself to be slow. You're not training yourself to really go at it. How can I explain this? I'm going to give an example. It's not perfect, granted. It is not. I'm just going to say it up front. But it might help a little bit. If I got used to lifting 100 pounds, let's just say. I lifted 100 pounds. And I could do it, and I was fine. Then I would feel confident when I had to lift 10 pounds for, a decent amount of times or reps. If I could lift 10 pounds for a couple reps, I wouldn't necessarily be confident to lift the 100. Does that sort of make sense? It's not a perfect analogy because you could train reps and get better at reps and stuff like that, or vice versa. But you get my point. If you lift heavy, you're going to be more confident lifting lighter things. If you just lift light, you're not going to be as confident to lift heavy. So if you lift heavy, generally speaking, you get two things for one. Again, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's somewhat relevant. Same thing with intensity. If I am going hard, it will help my lower intensity work. If I only train lower intensity, it won't necessarily move the needle on the higher intensity stuff. So it's better bang for your buck to go higher intensity. All right, so let's talk about intensity. What do we mean by that? And how do you apply that? Because I think it can be a little intimidating. You gotta do an intense workout, and you get this, image of like this guy yelling at you or something, like gonna rip you in half. It's not that. It really isn't. So one of the big things to realize about intensity is relative to each person. So what is intense for a professional athlete will be completely unreasonable for the average person. What is intense for the average person will be so easy to the professional athlete. So I'm not saying train like a professional athlete. I'm saying train at an intensity that's relative to you. So train at a good intensity for the average person. So what I like to use is a 10-point scale. This is a relative, subjective scale in your mind. 1 is, this is so easy, I could do it in my sleep. 10 is, I'm gonna die or something, like this is so hard. And you wanna be somewhere like around 7 or an 8. If you can reach that intensity consistently for your workouts, that's all we're asking for. And you get to decide what that is. It's your relative scale to you. It's not based off of someone else. What is a 7 or an 8 out of 10 to you? Now, that being said, because we're talking about intensity versus duration, which aren't complete opposites, but we're going to contrast them today. If you are training at a 3 out of 10 intensity, don't expect anything good to happen, honestly. You need to hear that. You need to put in the work and you need to push yourself in order to get any sort of good result. If you don't challenge yourself, you will not get anything good in return. I want you to have the result. So you need to know that you need to push the intensity. If you're doing those 30-minute, things on one of the machines, and you're just like going along, and it's not really challenging you, you're wasting your time. You might be maintaining some sort of level of endurance or capacity. Granted, that might be true. At least you're moving, right? But you're not progressing. And I think what we want is a progression. We want to see results, right? I don't want to waste my time. I don't think you do. I want to see results for the time and effort I put into what I do. So you gotta level up the intensity. It's just necessary for what you need. Okay. So let's talk about the intensity. Let's talk about how that would work in order to make your lungs better, in order to not get winded and get gassed out all the time. So the first thing I recommend in terms of like how to do this is you need variety. If you're doing the same thing every time, again, it kind of goes into what we were talking about before, you're gonna get bored. And when you're bored, it's not fun, it's not engaging, and you just don't try as hard. You need to make it new, exciting, some variety. I'm not talking about just being random, but you need enough variety that it's gonna work. So how would you do that? So what I'd recommend to do is to do your workouts anywhere between 6 minutes long to 20 minutes. That is just the workout itself. You have your warm-up on top of that. But the workout itself could be as short as 6 minutes. Now that would be an intense 6 minutes, an 8 out of 10 6 minutes. But it would be 6 minutes long, okay? Or you go up to 20 minutes. I wouldn't go much longer than that because then you start going into all the other stuff. But that's the range of time you're looking for. If you look at like energy system training, it's a little, probably too geeky for what we're talking about here. But the basic idea is you got gears in the body. If you got like your first gear, your second gear, your third gear, we're kind of training like one of your gears, and the gear, that timing to train that gear is 6 minutes and beyond. It goes up to like hours, but you can get a good hit. You can develop it within 6 to 20 minutes. You don't always need to do these really long things. You do a 20-minute intense workout, it will improve your performance for that 1 hour hike or whatever you're looking for, or that 2 hour hike. Okay? Now, when some people hear 6 minutes, they're thinking like, what can you accomplish in 6 minutes? Trust me, shorter is harder. Remember, because we're keeping the intensity high. So a 6 minute, 8 out of 10 intensity block of time is more challenging mentally, physically, than a 15 minute, 8 out of 10 effort. It's harder. Your lungs are going to be hurting at the end of the 6 minutes because it's a shorter duration. It's going to be more intense. If you think about like running, if you run like 400 meters really fast, it's a shorter distance than say a longer race. But if you really go hard, you're done. You're on the ground and you're gassed at the end. That's what I'm talking about. It's an intense, shorter duration. So you want to go for a shorter time. Just work within those 6 to 20 minutes and get variety. You have a short workout, you have a long workout, you have a medium workout, and just work within that framework. You don't need the really long stuff. All right, so that was the first one, okay? That's what we're talking about. You want to prioritize intensity over duration. Second one is all about not focusing on a specific exercise. That's what I do. That's what changed for me. I stopped focusing on a specific exercise. So typical examples, running or swimming, elliptical machine, something like that, right? So why don't I recommend that? Point number one, kind of talked about it earlier. It's boring. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, it's just boring, you know? I don't think there's too much else to say about that. It's just boring. Second one, more opportunity for injuries. Again, we sort of touched on this earlier, but if I'm running all the time, especially on concrete, you're gonna have some wear and tear on your joints, especially if you're doing it often. You know, if you're running every day, 3 times a week, long duration, it's gonna add up. You have some ankle issues, Achilles tendon, knee issues, anything like that. If you're doing something like swimming, shoulder issues, I got some friends, I have 2 friends who used to swim a lot. Shoulders are messed up now. Can you fix those things? Sure, but do you want to be in the position where you have to fix it? Probably not. So if you're, let's say, because we were talking about any activity, right? How to not get winded during any activity. If you have a specific activity, like running or swimming or whatever it is, you still need to do the activity, but just use it for technique. So maybe you'd run, but run like once a week and keep it shorter and focus on your technique, how your stride is going, how your foot's laying on the ground, all that type of stuff. You're swimming, how your strokes are going. So you just do it enough to master the technique, but you don't use it as your main tool to train your lungs. Now, if you do that, if you just focus on the one thing, will you get better at it? Yes, but what I'm saying is the risk reward for that on your joint side of things, I don't think is worth it. Especially if you're not getting like paid to do what you're doing. You know, if you are a professional swimmer, then you've got to do that. If you're just the average Joe trying to, improve your health, you don't need to destroy your body running all the time or swimming all the time. It's not necessary. You're getting paid to do it, then you need to do what you need to do. So we're talking about using it for technique. Just touch on it here and there. Do it when you need to, and then let it go and do other stuff to still train the lungs. So that's my second point. Use other things that train the lungs. There are many activities that will cross over. Are they exactly the same? No. But they will still help you in some way, because the main thing you're focusing on is your lungs. And you can train your lungs doing any activity, no matter how you move your body, provided that it's not at a heavy weight, and you're doing it for long enough, it will train your lungs. So you could do anything, really. Specific activity like running or swimming will help. It will probably get you faster results in order to do that thing, but the trade-off isn't there. But it isn't always required. So just think about doing, again, the time zones, that 6 to 20 minute stuff. Get as many movements, as much variety in that as you can with a high enough intensity, and then it will transfer over into your specific activity. That's good enough. You don't need to do the specific activity all the time. So that's the second one. Don't focus specifically on the exercise or the activity. You can, but I'd only do that if you're getting paid for it. If you're not getting paid for it, let it go. It's fine. The third point that will help you with this is the pacing you're doing the activity with. This probably sounds super obvious, but it needs to be said, because some of this really helped me as well. So when you're talking about doing whatever activity it is, let's say it's a run, you need to be aware of how to keep yourself in check, how to keep your pace consistent, and how to measure if your pace is getting too fast or too slow. The easiest way to do that is for you to be aware and cautious of your breathing rate. How fast are you breathing? How heavy are you breathing? Is it consistent? Is it getting out of control? All that type of stuff. That is the best indicator. Some people use a heart rate test or all that type of stuff. That works well too. But if you don't have the equipment for it, it's useless. You also need to be trained to use it and know how to read it. Your breathing rate is a much easier thing to measure. You don't even need any equipment. You just sort of keep in check, like, am I getting really out of breath right now or am I not? And then whenever you start something, start it, especially now that you've been doing the other training where you're trying to get like a 8 out of 10 intensity. When you do this, you think about getting like a 6 out of 10. You only start at a 6 out of 10. So if we were going to like divide the length of your activity, let's say it's a 1 hour hike, just for simple math, and you got, you divide up into quarters. First 15 minutes, second, third, fourth 15 minutes. So you got 4 quarters of the activity. When people don't pace well, when they run out of gas, their lungs are going, they're just gone. What usually happens is that first quarter, the first 15 minutes of the hike, they go at like a 9 out of 10 intensity. They feel the pressure to keep up with other people and they just go for it. And then in the, the second quarter, you start slowing down, you start getting to a 7 out of 10 intensity. And then by the third one, you're at like a 4 or a 3 or a 2. And the worst part about that is you're only about halfway through. You still have the last quarter. So it's just demoralizing. You're stuck in the middle of whatever you're doing. And you're lost. You're like, where am I going to go from here? So here's what I would recommend. Do the opposite. You start off with something that feels too slow. 6 out of 10 for that first quarter, whatever the activity is. For the hike, first 15 minutes, 6 out of 10. Make it easy. In the second quarter, you either stay at the 6 or you move up to a 7 out of 10, but you still got wiggle room. You've got wiggle room, but you're not killing yourself, but you're still moving. Third, you go to an 8 out of 10. You're starting to get there. And in that last quarter, now you have juice. You can let go at a 9 out of 10 and finish strong. That's how you pace. If you come out with a 9 out of 10, you're going to crash and burn. If you finish with a 9 out of 10, you'll be fine. So you just want to slowly ramp up instead of coming up early and then crashing and doubting your whole life existence in the middle of whatever activity you're in, okay? So that's generally how you do it. So there's breathing and the pacing, and there's also the technique of whatever you're doing. So we were talking about running before. Running is a good example. So I was saying, maybe do something once a week. Other practical things, if you're doing something for technique, is do it at the beginning of the session. So let's say you do, you're running once a week. You could have a short workout on running, or if you have like a longer workout, just have like the first section of the workout about running. So you do it when you're fresh and you can practice your technique on that thing. So if you're running, maybe you're doing pose running or whatever, and you're kind of working on leaning forward or where your foot hits the ground. But you just pick on one element and you focus on it. Do that for a little bit, and then you're done. And now you're still improving the mechanics of the activity you're trying to do specifically. You're not overloading the joints anymore. You're not trashing your body, but you are still building the habits that you're going to need when you go into that activity at full force, okay? So those are the big things I recommend. You need to prioritize intensity over duration. Spread out the exercise you're doing. Don't just focus on one thing. And, then work on the technique of the exercise after that, of the specific thing, okay? And your pacing. So those are the big things. I want to hear from you guys though. Leave a comment about whatever stood out to you. Maybe there was a specific thing you're like, yeah, I really need to focus on that. Or maybe you're still feeling left in the dark and like, you didn't cover this part. Then make a comment about that. Then I'd love to continue the conversation. Just leave a comment down below and I'd love to hear more from you guys. Also remind you, check out the free guide I was telling you about earlier. You can check out the link at the bottom of the screen. That's a one-stop shop to basically get all the major elements about how to work out in a sustainable way so that you can feel confident about your body and your health and your fitness.